Hey, I'm Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, and today we're going to talk about where to find gold in Nevada. Now, I got to tell you, Nevada is actually the most gold productive state in the entire United States. And we say, well, California's the golden state, Nevada's the silver state. Well, you know, in the ancient days when they gave nicknames like that to states, Nevada was a big silver producer, and it continues to produce some silver as well. But gold discoveries made in Nevada starting in the 1930s, but really accelerating in the 60s and 70s, just made Nevada a huge producer. And literally, we still produce 5 or 6 million ounces of gold every year. And over all the decades that we've been doing that here in Nevada, we've outproduced California. All the gold that was produced in California in the gold rush and all the decades afterwards, we've made more gold than that, and we continue to make even more. So the thing about Nevada, though, for prospectors is that most of the Nevada gold is hard rock, meaning that it's in either veins or other types of bulk deposits of mineralized rock that are not really very suitable for the individual prospector. And I because of what my channel is and what it's focused on, I want to focus on the individual more than the big giant company. We're going to talk about the different kinds of opportunities for prospecting in Nevada. I'm not going to focus on things like the Carlin deposits and some of that kind of stuff. We will look at some of the big mines and things like that and talk a little bit about it. But mostly, I'm going to talk about either really small hard rock mines or placer deposits. The small hard rock mines I'm going to talk about are ones that are rich, that produce high-grade gold that could be found with a metal detector. Now, really, because Nevada is a very dry, deserty state, even in northeastern Nevada, which does have some trees and things like that, yeah, especially in the mountains, it still is a pretty darn dry state. And there's not a lot of opportunity for river prospecting because there are just not that many big flowing rivers in Nevada. You know, the two bigger rivers that are Nevada rivers, the Humboldt and the Reese River, they just don't have a lot of water in them. They have some. A lot of it flows beneath the surface because that's just how Nevada is. So our prospecting opportunities are mostly metal detecting, dry washing, and the like in those. Now, there are people who use recirculating sluices and that kind of stuff in Nevada, and it's possible to process dry material in a recirculating sluice as long as you have enough water. But we're going to mostly focus on the small-scale prospector and the opportunities for finding gold in Nevada, nuggets and that kind of stuff. I've had some good success finding gold in Nevada, and let me show you, and we'll delve more right into it right now. So I'll start with talking about the opportunities for prospectors in Nevada. This is me out metal detecting. You can see a lot of sagebrush and a lot of cheatgrass and other ground it's a pretty dry desert area. But metal detecting certainly is one of the best opportunities for prospectors in Nevada. Another common activity in Nevada is, of course, dry washing. There's a lot of people who get out and dry wash. There's lots of areas that provide good opportunities for dry washers. And the ground is, because it's so dry, the ground is dry a lot of the year. Of course, we do get our rain and that sort of thing and snow. And as you can see behind me there's some trees. So there's enough moisture here to grow trees in the ground. But, you know, if you get out at the right time, there's good opportunities for dry washing, and dry washing can recover some gold that's just too fine for your metal detector to see. And because of that, dry washing and metal detecting go together, because you can recover some very fine gold that's just too small for your metal detector to see. And this is a place where there's some gold that can be detected, but a lot of the gold is just too small for a metal detector, so I'm dry washing. Now you'll see that here I am running a sluice box, and I said, oh, there's no water in Nevada. Well, generally speaking, there's places where there's gold, but there's no water, and there's places where there's water, but there's no gold. And this is one of the places where there's water, and very close by there is gold. So I ran a sluice box, but I think in 40 years of prospecting in Nevada, this is the one and only time I've ever run a sluice box. And I can tell you that I was here a week or so before, and there was probably 3 or 4 times this much water, and I was here a week or 10 days later after this picture was taken, and there definitely wasn't enough water to run a sluice box. So where there is water in Nevada, it's only temporary. But there is some really good gold to be found in Nevada, and this is a picture of some nuggets that I found with my metal detector. These are good days. I've found bigger nuggets than this, but still these are pretty darn nice examples of Nevada nuggets. This is a beautiful piece of wire gold that I found. It came with a lot of iron on it originally. I mean, I could see the gold in it, but it was heavily iron stained, and I had to soak it for a while to get the iron off. But it's a beautiful piece of wire gold, and it's pretty good size. This thing weighs about 2/3 of an ounce. So skilled and experienced prospectors can find some nice gold in Nevada, whether it be with a dry washer or with a metal detector. There's definitely good opportunities. Let's take a look at some of the placer areas that the state has that are available. This is an older and simplified version of a map of the placer deposits of Nevada, and the various districts are shown as red and green dots and locations on the map. And although I know you can't really see this in detail, we'll talk about other maps, and we'll even examine this map in a little bit closer condition. You can see, though, if you look at it, even with a view from afar like this, that there's way more districts, gold placer districts, in the northern part of the state than there are in the southern part of the state. And even the ones that are in the southern part of the state, they're more toward the western side of the state. In fact, the southeast has pretty much almost nothing. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to divide this into 2 halves, and we'll take a look at each one and just kind of talk about some of the districts that are out there. I've been to a lot of them, not every single one, but I've been to a lot of these. So let's look at the southern part of the state. And you can see here that there's just not that many placer areas, especially toward the eastern part of the southern part of the state, the southeast. There's just not much there. What few districts there are kind of lie along the western edge of Nevada near its border with California. Down in Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is, there's a spot called number 3, and that's along the Muddy River. I actually panned there once, and working hard for a couple hours, I got a few little colors. It was pretty dismal. It's not a place that's really produced much gold. Now down along the Colorado River there, it's marked 3A. That actually is a site that produced some good gold. But Colorado River through that whole section is a big national recreational area, and panning and prospecting are illegal. So don't go down there and do that. Now number 39 here, that's in the southern part of Nye County, that's the Johnny District, and I know some people who have found some good gold. Number 36 up a little north of Beatty, I have a friend who tells me that there's good gold up there, although I've never particularly seen it, but he says he's seen some nice nuggets from that country. There's a lot of mines and modern mining that's being done right now around Beatty, so there may be access issues. Further north along the border, there's 18 is Tocop, and 17 and 16 are a couple of placer areas. These have produced some nuggets too. The real big producer in southern Nevada is up near the top of this map at the green dot at Manhattan. And Manhattan had actually a bucket line dredge for a number of years, and even before that it produced lots of ounces. But the placer area around Manhattan are under private claims, and some of them are being worked off and on. So the opportunities there may be more limited. I know that some of the hard rock mines in the Manhattan area, because there's hard rock there too, also produce some real high-grade gold. So there's potential around Manhattan. Let's take a look at the northern part of the state of Nevada. So here's the northern part of the state of Nevada, and you can just see, looking at it real quickly, that there's way more dots on the map here. and way more placer areas. And the green ones are the more productive ones. You can see the more productive ones. Instead of just being one, there's a whole bunch of them. And so this is really where the bulk of the Nevada placers are. And there's some really great production areas here, places that were dredged or with bucket line dredged commercially, or were even some hydraulic mining took place in this area. So let's get started and talk about these different areas. I'll talk about the most productive places. In the west, over there by Virginia City, is the number 30. That's the Gold Canyon area. That's actually the first discovery of gold in the state of Nevada, and done by prospectors that were headed to California but got stuck because of late snow. And so they started looking in the area where they were camping, waiting to cross over the mountains. And sure enough, they found gold there south of what is now Virginia City. Then there was nothing up there. Number 34 along the south part of the map here is the Rawhide District. Again, another district that produced many multi-ounce nuggets and was a big producer 100+ years ago. But this is a site of an active mine, and there's actually a lot of the area that was mined by the placer miners in the early part of the 1900s is now either under tailings or under mine workings or part of a pit, otherwise not accessible. Number 41 at the south edge of the north map is also an active mine. This is Round Mountain, and Round Mountain has produced some awesome, beautiful, amazing gold specimens and continues to do so. But it's an active mine site, and no, you're not going to get in there to metal detect or dry wash or do whatever you want to do to hunt for gold. It's going to be out of bounds. Now, going up further north, you see Pershing County. There's a whole lot of dots. It probably has the largest number of placer districts. The most widespread placer gold in Nevada is in Pershing County. And in the far north part, you see a dot 49 and several others, and actually marked one with purple, called it Rye Patch. And that is what's generally called by a lot of prospectors the Rye Patch area. And though this map makes it seem like, oh, there's a few districts out here scattered, there's actually quite a number of small districts where gold has been mined or worked or otherwise taken from the ground. But it's not everywhere. It's just scattered here and there. But at the region where it's scattered covers a large area. And it's not just in Pershing County. It actually goes over the border into the southern part of Humboldt County. There's gold there too, I can assure you. Now, on the eastern side of the railroad and the highway, there's the Humboldt Range placers, and there's a number of them there. The one marked 52 is the Spring Valley District, and there's been a lot of gold mined there. That was actively dredged in the early days. Then going further north and east, number 26 is the Battle Mountain District, another area that was very actively worked and dredged. Number 19 is the Lynn District, and Lynn is kind of a funny thing. This is the district where the big Carlin mines are, and it's kind of strange. The geology is such that on one side of a major fault that goes through there, the gold, there's a huge amount of gold, but it's very tiny, it's microscopic. And on the other side of the fault, the gold is coarse and there's placer. And the Lynn part of the district, it was the placer part that was mined. It wasn't until at least into the 30s and really more into the 1960s that they discovered the huge amounts of microscopic gold in rock in that area. And it continues to be hugely productive even to this day. Number 14 is the Tuscarora District, another area that was worked in the early days. I've been out to Tuscarora, and I know that some really amazing gold specimens have been found out there. Mostly it's gold in quartz, gold in rock, but still some really beautiful pieces of gold, and there's placer in that area as well. Heading further north and a little east, number 12 is the Mountain City District, which was hugely productive. A lot of large nuggets came from there. And number 9, the Charleston District, another a productive district in the northern part of the state. So you can see that northern Nevada, oh, I forgot, way at the far eastern edge, number 58 is the Osceola District, which is also a district that's produced some real coarse gold. It continues to be mined on a small scale. We have operators with bulldozers and that kind of stuff continuing to work in the Osceola area and continuing to produce gold. It's a very productive area, and I know that some nice nuggets have been found near there with metal detectors. So for the eastern part of the state, that's probably the most productive district in northern Nevada. But anyway, this is a good look at part of the state. There are other maps that are available, which I'm going to give you information on later. But this is a good simplified map that gives you a feel for where the placer areas are in the state of Nevada. So that's a little bit about the placer districts of Nevada, but there are other opportunities. There are, like I say, in many placer districts, a lot of good nuggets that are found, but don't overlook the hard rock opportunities of Nevada. There are a lot of small mines, and there's actually some big mines as well, that have produced some really spectacular gold. This specimen is from a little mining district, not very productive, but it produced some real nice specimens, and I've found gold there, and so have some friends of mine. So it's worth delving into, and we're going to talk a little bit about the hard rock mining districts of Nevada. Now, as I said earlier, most of the gold produced in Nevada comes from hard rock districts, and this is a picture taken from the most famous hard rock district in Nevada, Virginia City, and the Comstock Lode. But this is not an area that's really produced huge amounts of gold specimens. Yes, some nice gold specimens have been produced from here, but not many, especially considering the huge amounts of gold that were produced here. Most of the gold was very small. A lot of it may be easy enough to see if you have a hand lens for magnification, but not something you're going to see with a metal detector, and not something that's going to make a showy, spectacular specimen. So let's talk about the difference between those districts that produce some real nice coarse gold and the ones like Virginia City that don't produce very much of that. Now, the vast majority of the gold produced in Nevada, the millions of ounces that are produced every year, come from rock that looks like this. And this is really of no particular use or interest to the prospector, unless you make a big discovery of new ore like this. Pieces like this have gold in it that you'll need a microscope to see it. And, you know, it's just not something you can easily extract the gold out of. You need to use cyanide or something like that, which is beyond the scope of most small prospectors. The ore is mined from huge operations with big pits and giant areas where they leach the rock after they've mined it, and you need this kind of scale of operation to make money with that type of ore. There are a few mines like Round Mountain that produce some spectacular coarse gold and don't mine ore like I just showed you a second ago. This is a 70-pound specimen pan full taken from Round Mountain, but hey, you can make a guess that they're not going to allow individual prospectors into the pit there to steal 70 pounds worth of gold. So where there is coarse gold and it's being mined in Nevada, you won't have access. But there are a lot of little prospect workings like this spread across Nevada that are well worth exploring with your metal detector. Now, I got to tell you that you got to research to find these, and you want to look in your research books for things like coarse gold, super rich specimen ore, and other things like that you'll find mentioned in the old reports. But there are more than just a few of these. There are quite a few of them in Nevada that are well worth exploring and well worth the prospector taking his time to get out and check it out. Now, in some mining districts, you may see that the gold that you find is pale colored like this. You'll note this is not a normal nice yellow color, but is extraordinarily pale for what you'd expect for gold. Well, a lot of Nevada mining districts are rich in silver as well as gold, and this is a specimen of electrum. It was found by a friend of mine with a metal detector in Nevada, and it's just really pale, but there's a lot of gold here, actually quite a bit, because this is not a tiny piece. There's a lot of wires and stuff there. So keep your eye out for electrum when you're prospecting old mining districts in Nevada. This is another specimen found by a friend of mine, a different friend of mine, at a location hundreds of miles from the one I just showed you, but also in Nevada. You can see the wires on the left-hand side. They're almost silvery gray. They don't really show much yellow at all, but again, this is a natural gold and silver alloy, and it's probably maybe 50-50 gold and silver, but that's how it forms in the veins of this district. Now, I mentioned if you're going to be out in Nevada and looking for hard rock mines and the placer stuff as well, you're going to need to do some research, and I'll start off with some books that I would recommend to you. The first is this Placer Gold Deposits of Nevada by Maureen Johnson. It's a USGS report, and this thing can actually be downloaded for free if you do some searching around on Google. And you can download it from the USGS website together with a really nice map that comes with it that shows the placer gold deposits of Nevada. Another good book for placer research in Nevada is this one, the Nevada Bureau of Mines and Geology Bulletin 27, Placer Mining in Nevada by William Vandenberg. I don't think this one can be downloaded, but it can be purchased from the Bureau of Mines. If you want to delve into the little hard rock mines that have really nice specimens like I've shown you here, you'll have to get into the hard rock mines of the various counties, and there's a book here. This is Humboldt and Pershing counties, and there's similar books on other counties and also county reports by the Bureau of Mines in Reno. So these are the kind of things you need to get into and explore if you want to find those little hard rock prospects that were productive for high-grade gold. There are also books like this one, Gold and Gems in Nevada by Jim Klein, that cover both the gold and rock hounding gemstones. And Nevada has a lot of opportunities for that sort of thing, but you'll want some books to do your study and research with. It's true that in addition to the gold, Nevada does have a lot of beautiful agate and jasper types of gemstones. Perhaps the most famous gemstone mineral that Nevada is famous for is its beautiful turquoise, which is found in just a huge number of places across the state. Now, prospecting for gold and finding gold, like I've shown you here in Nevada, it's a skill and it's a knowledge that makes you successful. If you don't know anything about prospecting, I'm sorry, your chances are less. And the more you know, the better your chances are. So I wrote a book about prospecting, and it will cover Nevada and other desert areas and other related types of things and gold deposits. And if you want to increase your skill at finding gold, my book is a great place to start. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my book right now. So let me tell you a little bit more about my book. It's called Fistful of Gold, and I wrote it because I want you to be able to go out and find for yourself Fistful of Gold. And you can see that it's an encyclopedia with all kinds of information, pictures, and that sort of thing. It's not in color, but color would have cost me a lot more to have printed, and so the book would have cost a lot more. It's for sale on Amazon, and you can pick it up. I'll put a link in the description below. I also serve as the editor for a prospecting magazine. It's ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal. And honestly, you should check that out. We got stories and information, legal stuff, everything you know to increase your skills as a prospector. I write articles in this every month, and a lot of other very experienced prospectors contribute to the magazine as well. So check the magazine out. Also, I have a website, and the website is at NevadaOutbackGems.com. I'll put a link for it in the description below, but there's gobs of information there that you will find useful in your prospecting efforts. Finally, I want to say that I really appreciate your comments and thoughts, and even positive criticism. Don't come on there and just toss out insults, because I'll just delete your comments. But if you've got helpful things to say and questions to ask, do write and put those in the comments, because I answer my comments to people, and you'll hear from me in responding to you. So if you've enjoyed this video and you like what you see and you're interested in finding out more, well then sign up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so they'll let you know when I post new videos. And, you know, like it and share it if, again, you see stuff that you really are excited about. And I'll be coming out with lots more new videos, and so we'll see you again real soon.